Silence doesn't mean nothing. It often means everything. The pain you're feeling right now? It's not confusion, it's clarity. Clarity you haven't accepted yet. She stopped texting, stopped calling. The messages faded into echoes. And you keep telling yourself, she's just busy. But deep down, you know that's not the truth. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're just finally noticing that you've become invisible. Most men, they chase harder when they feel her slipping away. They beg, they cling, they overthink. But Stoic men, they observe, they accept, and then they walk away with quiet dignity. Because real strength, it isn't holding on. It's knowing exactly when to let go. So ask yourself this. Why are you still waiting to be chosen by someone who already walked away? How many times will you betray your own worth just to stay relevant in her world? You weren't made to be a placeholder. You are the unshakable man. A man who doesn't beg to be seen because he already sees himself. And the moment you stop chasing what's fading, you start attracting what's real. Peace replaces anxiety. Clarity replaces confusion. And one day, not too far from now, you'll look back and realize her silence was your greatest teacher. So if you're ready to take back your power, start this journey now. Click play. Lean in and don't look away. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who went quiet on you? Drop a 1 if you've been there. Drop a 2 if you're still struggling with it. I read every comment, and trust me, you are not alone, because in the next few minutes, you'll learn why her silence was never random, and how to rise above it with quiet, commanding power. Let's begin. When someone suddenly stops reaching out, when the calls stop coming, the messages fade, and the effort quietly disappears, don't brush it off as coincidence. That silence. It's not random. It's not just an oversight or a momentary lapse. That silence is a message. A wordless yet piercingly loud way of speaking. Because here's the truth. Words can lie. Words can be sweet, scripted and deceiving. But actions always speak with raw honesty. They don't wear masks. They don't pretend. If someone no longer checks in, if they don't ask how you're doing, don't make time, don't even acknowledge your presence, that silence isn't accidental. It's intentional. It means something, and it hurts because deep down you know you're no longer a priority. Maybe not even a thought. People don't just forget those they hold dear. People don't go silent on what they love. You see, absence is a form of communication too, one of the clearest kinds. When someone stops trying, stops showing up, stops caring, it's not because they're too busy. It's because they've chosen not to make space for you anymore. And that realization cuts deeper than any goodbye ever could. Because no one, I mean no one, is too busy to send a simple, "I'm thinking of you." We make time for what we value. We reach out to what we miss. We fight for what we can't bear to lose. So if you constantly have to remind someone you exist, if you find yourself always being the one to reach out, to check in, to hold on, ask yourself this. Why do I have to beg to be seen by someone I once meant everything to? Because the heart never forgets what it truly loves. We all owe it to ourselves to face the truth, even when it's painful, especially when it's painful. Don't keep chasing the ghost of a connection that's already gone. Don't settle for crumbs of affection from someone who once offered you the whole feast. If someone consistently chooses distance, withdrawal and silence, that's not just fading interest. That's a choice, a conscious pulling away. Step by step, word by unsent word, call by missed call, And their silence? It's not just an empty space, it's a loud, aching declaration. You are no longer where their heart lives. That message, though unspoken, screams. And sometimes, the silence is what finally tells you what their words never could. Let it sink in, and let it set you free. If someone truly values you, you won't have to wonder. They'll show it. Not just when it's convenient, not just when the timing is easy or life is light. They'll show up consistently, deliberately, and with intention. Because real effort in a relationship, it's never random. It's a reflection, a mirror of how deeply they care, how much they're willing to prioritize you. People always make time for what matters. They chase what they truly want, and they hold on to what they're afraid to lose. So if you're feeling left out, forgotten, replaced, it's not all in your head. That ache, that quiet hollowness. It's the truth, slowly and painfully, beginning to reveal itself. And the longer you pretend not to see it, the more you let your heart absorb that silence, the more damage it does. Because someone who genuinely cares about you will never leave you guessing. They won't keep you in the dark, won't disappear without a word, leaving you to decipher silence like it's a puzzle. When love is real, it doesn't come with confusion. Love speaks, it reassures, it shows up. Respect, appreciation, affection. These are living things. They don't survive in silence. They need expression, clarity, presence. So if she's stopped texting, stopped calling, if she's slowly backing away, one quiet day at a time, and not giving you a reason why, that's not meaningless. That's not just a rough patch. It's not a phase. That's a message, unspoken but crystal clear. Her silence, her distance. It's not neutral. It's telling you something your heart already suspects, that something's changed, that your place in her heart isn't what it used to be. And yes, that truth hurts. But truth is medicine, even when it stings, because without it, you stay trapped in a cycle of chasing someone who's no longer holding out their hand. You keep making excuses, justifying actions that already gave you the answer a long time ago. Here's the raw truth. People don't neglect what they still want to keep. They don't go quiet on someone they're afraid to lose. Silence is never just the absence of words. It's a loud, aching signal, a truth wrapped in quiet. And the hardest part, if she wanted to talk, she would have. If she wanted to stay connected, you wouldn't have to question it. You need to stop romanticizing the silence. Stop mistaking distance for mystery. See what's actually happening, not what you wish was happening. Because false hope is a trap. And denial, that's the rope that keeps you tied to something that's already let go of you. The more you justify her silence, the longer you delay your own healing. The longer you hold on to someone who's already stepping away, one unanswered message at a time. But here's the part you must remember. Just because she no longer chooses you doesn't mean you're not valuable. Doesn't mean you're not worthy of deep, loud, unwavering love. It just means the relationship has changed. And most relationships, they don't break all at once. They fade, quietly, through neglect, through silence, through the slow erosion of effort. So don't chase echoes. Don't hold on to a love that's already stopped holding you back. Let truth be your compass. Let go, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop waiting for someone who already walked away. Before someone stops texting, before the calls fade, before the effort quietly disappears, the shift already happened. And by the time you start noticing the silence, the absence, the space where their presence used to be, the message has already been sent, not in words, but in silence, in delay, in detachment. In the growing distance they never bothered to explain. Your job isn't to keep dreaming. It's not to rewrite the story in your head or hold on to what once was. Your job is to see things clearly. When someone walks away, it's not an accident. It's not confusion. It's not something you just need to talk through. It's an ending, and the truth about endings, they rarely come with closure. They don't always offer clean goodbyes. Sometimes they come in silence, in unanswered messages, in cold distance that used to be warm. But you'll feel it. Long before they say anything, if they ever do, you'll feel the shift. You'll sense that you're no longer a priority. You'll see it in the space between replies, in the fading enthusiasm, in the way your presence no longer lights up their world. And when that happens, don't fight it. Don't beg. Don't twist yourself into pieces trying to matter to someone who stopped showing up, because love, real love, doesn't make you beg. It doesn't keep you wondering. It doesn't vanish and call it just being busy. The truth may sting, but it also sets you free. You don't have to convince anyone to care. You don't have to chase someone who keeps walking away. You don't have to earn the attention that genuine affection gives freely. If someone truly values you, they won't leave you guessing. They won't go days without a word. They won't abandon you in silence and expect you to wait in the dark. Real care shows up, consistently, not because it's convenient, but because it matters. You deserve more than half-hearted love, more than maybe later, more than read messages with no reply, more than someone who only makes time when it's easy. If someone can't give you that, their absence isn't just pain. It's a gift in disguise, because they're making space for someone who won't hesitate, someone who won't drift, someone who sees your worth and meets it with action, not excuses. Absence reveals the truth. It doesn't lie. It strips away the fantasy, the wishful thinking, the denial. It shows you what your heart already knew but couldn't admit. If they're not calling, not texting, not showing up, it means something, and the moment you accept that, truly accept it, is the moment you start taking your power back. You stop chasing, you stop shrinking, you stop waiting for someone who already let go. Because people don't walk away from what they genuinely care about. They don't create distance from what they're afraid to lose. Effort is never an accident. It's intentional. It's emotional currency, and people spend it where their heart truly belongs. So if someone is always busy, always distant, always somewhere else, maybe their heart isn't with you anymore. And that's not a mystery. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. A quiet, conscious, emotional shift. And that shift, it speaks volumes, even when they don't. So remember this. People always make time for what they want. They always find a way to stay close to what they care about. The reason they give you doesn't matter. The story you tell yourself doesn't matter. Only actions do. And if you find yourself constantly questioning your place in someone's life, then deep down, you already know you're not in the place you hoped you were, and maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. If someone makes you feel like you're just their last option, it's not a misunderstanding, it's not bad timing, it's because you're not a priority in their heart. And that truth, it stings. But sometimes the sting is what wakes you up. If they leave you waiting, if you're always the one wondering, doubting, second-guessing your own worth, then maybe their feelings aren't what you believed they were. And that realization, it hurts. But it's not meant to break you. It's meant to wake you. Because here's something you need to hold close. No one is ever too busy for someone they truly care about. Love doesn't forget. Love doesn't ghost. Love doesn't need reminders. People don't just drift away from relationships that matter to them. They don't vanish from the lives of those they treasure. If someone is fading on you, if they're always somewhere else, always missing when it matters, it's not by accident, it's not silence. It's an answer. Real care doesn't make you feel left behind. It doesn't make you feel like a backup. So if someone is treating you like a second thought, then the truth is you're no longer essential to them. And as hard as that is to accept, it's something you need to face with courage, because every relationship is a reflection of what you allow. If you keep accepting inconsistency, if you keep rationalizing neglect, if you keep making excuses for someone else's lack of effort, then you're not just tolerating the hurt, you're inviting it. And it won't stop. It'll keep happening over and over again until the moment you finally stand up for your heart and say, I deserve better than this. Because let's be honest, no one just wakes up and forgets about someone they truly love. No one goes from close to cold overnight unless something inside them has already shifted. Feelings don't disappear in an instant, but they do fade. They fade when they're no longer nurtured, when the calls stop, when the messages slow down, when the connection gets quiet and you're left filling in all the blanks. And when someone stops trying, that's not a glitch. That's their way of telling you their feelings have changed. You can't force someone to care. You can't convince someone to see your worth, no matter how patient, loving, or loyal you are. Because here's the truth. People don't value what they're allowed to neglect. They don't treasure what's always there, waiting, hoping, asking for nothing in return. The moment you start overcompensating for someone else's lack of effort is the moment you begin losing pieces of yourself. And yes, it hurts. It hurts to admit that someone you once loved, someone you still think about, still dream about, doesn't love you back anymore. But pain is not a reason to live in denial. Because the truth, it's still the truth. Even if you're not ready to say it out loud, if they're not showing up, if they're not trying, if their words don't match their actions, you already have your answer. And ignoring that answer just delays the healing. It prolongs the ache. It keeps you stuck in a place you've already outgrown. You deserve a love that doesn't leave you confused. You deserve consistency, clarity, kindness. You deserve to be cared for without having to beg for it. You deserve a love that's real, whole, intentional, not something you constantly have to chase. And if you're not getting that dash, the most powerful thing you can do is this. Walk away, not to make them miss you, not to get an explanation, but to finally understand the truth. Effort, or the lack of it, is the clearest answer there is. Every second you spend waiting on someone who isn't choosing you is a second you drift further from the version of you who knows what they deserve. So let them go, not in anger, but in peace, and walk back toward yourself, toward your healing, toward the kind of love that doesn't ask you to question your worth, because you're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. At the end of the day, your worth is reflected in the very moments you're wasting on someone who's already, quietly, made their choice. Every unanswered message, that is an answer. Every excuse you whisper to yourself, that's just how they are. They're probably busy. They'll come back, is a clear sign of where you truly stand in their heart. And the more you try to explain away their absence, the more you turn your back on the one person who needs you most, yourself. The more you hold on to the hope that they'll change, that they'll wake up one day and suddenly see your worth, the more you delay your own healing, your own peace, your own freedom, You can't control how others treat you, but you can control what you accept. You can't force someone to care, but you can refuse to accept indifference. You can't make someone love you the way you deserve to be loved, but you can choose to keep only those around you who love with consistency, with effort, with truth. And that is your power. Your strength doesn't lie in trying to be chosen. It lies in choosing yourself. It lies in being strong enough to walk away when someone no longer chooses you, because when someone truly values you, you won't have to wonder. You won't lie awake analyzing every small gesture, decoding mixed signals, clinging to fleeting moments of kindness, and hoping they mean something more. Love is not a puzzle. Care is not a riddle. You should never have to guess where you stand. When someone cares, you'll know, and when they stop, their silence will say it all. Don't wait any longer. Stop waiting for signs. Stop waiting for change. Stop waiting for someone who's already shown you, in 100 quiet ways, that you are no longer their priority. Their actions, or the lack of them, are your answer. Stop justifying it. Stop covering for them. Stop telling yourself they're just going through something. They've been tired. They're overwhelmed. People who care make time, even in chaos. People who value you show up even when it's inconvenient. People who love you don't let you carry the effort alone. And a shared past, a history filled with beautiful memories, that is not a reason to accept neglect in the present. Because as beautiful as the past may be, memories don't hold you at night. Memories don't answer texts. Memories don't try. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice made in the present, shown through action, repeated through effort, consistently, clearly, undeniably. And if you're not getting that, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to stop settling for less. If someone doesn't choose you, then you shouldn't spend another second choosing them. Because love, real love, doesn't leave you wondering. It doesn't make you wait. It doesn't ask you to prove your worth just to be seen. There will be someone else. Someone who looks at you and immediately sees what others overlooked. Someone you don't have to fight to keep. Someone who will never let you forget how deeply you matter. The sting of being ignored, that's temporary. But the pain of loving someone who never truly loved you back, that kind of pain lingers quietly, silently, sometimes for years. Because the more you try to hold on to someone who wants to leave, the more of yourself you start to lose. The longer you wait for them to change, the longer you delay the joy that's been waiting for you. The peace, the healing, the love that would have found you, if you weren't so busy holding on to what's already gone. The more you settle for less than you deserve, the further you drift from something real, something mutual, something safe, if they're not showing up for you now. What makes you think they'll magically start showing up tomorrow? If they're inconsistent with their love, careless with your heart, casual with your time, they don't deserve your patience. They don't deserve your loyalty. They don't deserve you. If you're constantly questioning your place in someone's life, then maybe it's time to question why they're still in yours. And once you truly understand this, once you stop searching for signs and start trusting the silence, you'll stop wasting your heart on people who don't see its worth. Don't measure your self-worth by how someone else treats you. Don't wait for someone who's unsure about you to finally decide you're enough. If their absence is making you doubt yourself, then maybe you've handed the mirror to someone who was never meant to hold it. Maybe you've given the power to define your value to someone who never really saw you. But here's the truth. Only you get to decide how valuable you are. And the moment you realize you never had to beg for attention, The moment you understand that love shouldn't hurt this way is the moment you take your power back. Chasing someone who doesn't appreciate you is abandoning yourself piece by piece for the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll wake up and finally choose you. But how long will you wait? How many times will you silence your own needs just to be easier to love? You hand over your heart to someone who never even planned on holding it carefully. You hope for something from someone who never had the intention of giving it. But listen closely. No one can truly value you until you learn to value yourself first. No one will prioritize you until you start walking away from half-hearted love and lukewarm effort. Because love can't be begged for, respect can't be pleaded into existence, and your worth? It was never meant to be proven by how much you're willing to endure for someone else's comfort. The right person will recognize your value without needing a single word. The wrong one? They'll keep taking and taking until you're drained, exhausted, and empty. If you don't learn to protect your self-respect, you'll always live at the mercy of people who never deserved your trust. So let this be your boldest move yet. Walk away from anyone who treats you like you're ordinary. Not because you're bitter, not because you stopped loving, but because you finally remembered who you are. Because strength doesn't come from waiting, or hoping, or shrinking yourself to fit into a space that was never meant for you. Real strength is in choosing yourself when someone else won't. And when you do, you won't have to be chosen, because you'll have already chosen yourself. Say no, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Out of the quiet, unshakable truth that your energy, your time, your love are sacred, and they are not meant for those who won't return them with care. Because every second you spend stressing over someone who isn't trying for you is a second you're stealing from your own growth, from your peace, from the version of you that's been waiting patiently for your attention, your effort, your love. Every moment you waste analyzing why they don't call, why they don't show up, why they seem so distant, is a moment you could have used to become stronger, wiser, more whole. A version of yourself that doesn't question their worth just because someone else failed to see it. The time you spend waiting for that text, that call, that change of heart, is time you will never get back. And time is the most valuable thing you have. You don't owe it to anyone who won't even give you effort in return. If someone's distance makes you feel like you're not enough, hear this. The problem is not your worth. The problem is where you're looking for validation. You've handed your self-respect to someone who either isn't capable or simply doesn't care enough to protect it. But here's the truth. No one can take your confidence away unless you give them the power to. No silence can define you unless you let it speak louder than your own voice. And the only validation you'll ever need is the one you give yourself. Because when you let others decide your value, you make yourself vulnerable to their moods, their silence, their indifference. You live in their shadows. And that's not freedom, that's self-abandonment. The moment you realize you don't need anyone's attention to feel whole is the moment you set yourself free. Free from the chains of uncertainty, free from begging, free from the exhausting task of trying to be enough for someone who doesn't even know how to see you. Self-respect isn't just a feeling, it's a decision, a daily, quiet, powerful choice. It's the choice to not lower your standards for half-hearted affection, to not accept silence as just the way they are, to not settle for being an option, when you know, deep down, you were born to be a priority. It's the strength to walk away when you feel yourself shrinking to fit inside someone's unclear world, it's the wisdom to understand silence is an answer, effort is always a choice, and real love, it never makes you question whether you're wanted. If you find yourself asking, am I even important to them? Chances are you're not in the right place. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to explain yourself to someone who never cared enough to ask. The right person will find you exactly as you are. They'll see your value without hints, without reminders, and they'll show up willingly, clearly, without hesitation, because love, real love, shows up without being begged. And then one day, when you finally meet the right person, something beautiful happens. You won't feel like you have to chase anymore. You'll feel seen without performing, valued without begging, loved without conditions. Because you'll know, deep in your bones, your worth was never tied to anyone's approval. If you keep waiting for someone to return the love you've been pouring out, you could end up losing years of your life on someone who never had any intention of staying. You'll wear yourself out, trying to convince someone to love you. But real love doesn't need convincing. You'll sacrifice your joy, you'll silence your needs, you'll dim your light for someone who never even noticed you were slowly fading away. And that's a cycle, a painful, exhausting loop that drains your soul, until there's nothing left of the you that once sparkled. But hear this: how someone treats you is a reflection of them, not a measure of your value. If someone doesn't appreciate you, that's their loss, not yours. If they can't recognize your presence as a gift, they don't deserve a seat at your table. And if someone is willing to let you go, then you need to be just as willing to stop holding on. Because anything less than that is betrayal, not by them, but by you, to yourself. You don't owe anyone your love. You don't have to keep waiting around for crumbs of attention or trace meaning into every delayed reply. Your presence is a privilege. Your energy is rare. And if someone takes that for granted, you don't need to prove yourself harder. You don't need to be enough for someone who was never capable of recognizing your worth, because their inability to love you right says everything about them and nothing about you. Growth begins the moment you stop searching for validation on the outside and start finding your strength from within. You step into confidence when you realize your worth isn't defined by a message sent or left on read. It doesn't depend on who stays or who leaves. You are not shaped by someone else's silence or their confusion or their inability to choose you. The right person will never make you doubt yourself. So respect yourself enough to walk away from inconsistency. Love yourself enough to stop tolerating indifference. And honor yourself enough to know someone else's lack of effort doesn't make you any less. When you live with that truth, you stop hurting over someone who was never really there to begin with. Because there's no strength in needing someone who doesn't need you back. There's no dignity in holding on to someone who's already let go, and there's no wisdom in chasing someone who's walking the other way. Let them go so you can grow. True strength doesn't come from holding on. It comes from knowing when to let go. Letting go of the weight you were never meant to carry. Letting go of pouring your love, your time, your energy into people who have no intention of walking beside you. Strength isn't in the grip. It's in the release, in the quiet moment where you finally say, I deserve more than this. Real strength comes when you finally realize your worth doesn't vanish just because someone else is too blind to see it. The moment you stop waiting for someone to choose you, is the moment you begin to step into your full power. The moment you understand that your joy, your peace, your purpose don't rely on anyone else's presence. That's when you become unshakable. Because the greatest strength you will ever have is the ability to walk away from anything that no longer feeds your soul. Walk away from inconsistency, from confusion, from half-loves and almosts. And when you do that, that's when you truly win. If someone's absence speaks louder than their words, listen. If their silence has replaced effort, believe it. If you keep having to wonder where you stand, you already have your answer, because love isn't a riddle, care isn't a code, and respect is never vague. The right person won't leave you guessing. They won't keep you in limbo. They won't make you feel like a burden for simply wanting to be seen. You don't need to beg for attention. You don't need to chase what's not coming toward you. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who doesn't even have the capacity to recognize it. Your worth is not up for debate. Your time is too precious to waste on people who misuse it. Your heart is too valuable for those who take it for granted. So choose yourself before waiting to be chosen. Walk away from anything that's half-hearted, from people who only show up halfway, from anyone who makes you feel like you're too much, when really they were never enough. Never accept being an option when you were born to be a priority, and when you stop seeking validation from the wrong people, you begin to create space for the right ones to find you, the ones who don't just say they care, but show it, the ones who love loudly, consistently, clearly. And when that moment finally comes, you'll look back at everything you once tolerated and know you'll never again settle for less than the love, the respect, and the effort you always deserved. Summary. And so, we've reached the end of this journey, a quiet unfolding, a deep dive into the unspoken language of silence, that strange, invisible force that somehow says more than any sentence ever could. Silence. It's subtle, but it's not empty. It's quiet, yes, but it's often louder than words will ever be. When someone chooses silence, when they pull away without warning, when their presence fades without explanation, it's not because they're too busy, it's not because they forgot. It's because quietly, softly, without a sound, they've moved you out of the space you once held in their heart. And when that happens, you have a choice, not to hold on, not to chase what's already slipping away, but to do the one thing that changes everything. Choose yourself, not because you weren't enough, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because you deserve more. More than uncertainty, more than absence, more than being an afterthought. You deserve clarity. You deserve presence. You deserve genuine care. Because love is not just a feeling. It's a choice. And care is not just a word. It's an action. And if they're not choosing you, through effort, through presence, through consistency, then you have every right to choose differently. You have every right to walk away, to protect your heart, to reclaim your peace. No anger, no blame, no dramatic ending, just awareness. Gentle, grounded awareness. Strong enough to never lose yourself again in someone else's silence. Because here's what silence teaches you. Once you stop fearing it, yes, silence can hurt, but it can also heal. It can clarify. It can free you. And once you learn to listen to that silence, once you learn what it's really saying, you stop waiting for words to confirm what your soul already knows. And in that space, you discover something powerful. That is true strength. The kind that doesn't chase, the kind that doesn't beg, the kind that doesn't break. Just quietly lets go and grows. Remember this: you don't need to be chosen to be valuable. You don't need someone else's validation to prove what's already true within you. Your worth isn't in anyone else's hands. It doesn't live in their attention, their approval, or their ability to stay. It lives in you, in the quiet strength of the choices you make for yourself every single day. So don't waste another moment chasing what was never meant for you. Not half-loves, not temporary people, not connections that leave you confused, empty, or questioning your worth. Because real love, real respect, real effort, they don't make you feel smaller. They don't dim your light. They don't ask you to shrink just to be accepted. They remind you of who you are, and they meet you there fully. So walk forward, not to prove anything, not to show them what they lost, but because you deserve more. You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve love that feels like truth, not tension. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for choosing to grow even when it hurts. And if this message spoke to your heart, then let it sink in and let it stay. Choose yourself first and come back anytime you need the reminder that you are enough, you are worthy, and you always, always deserve something better.